So I'm David Scott Neal, and everyone knows me as Nemo, which is a fun story. Basically, I got started through getting an opportunity to join the team at Local Motors, and Local Motors was a bit of a pioneer in the co-creation world when they started their online community in 2008. They started running these like locally themed design challenges, and they would leverage the power of the crowd, and they would openly collaborate during those challenges. So it wasn't a black box thing. People could see what everyone else was working on. They would discuss it. They would critique it while it was going on. I participated in that community, and then when they gave me the job in 2014, I went from participating to managing that co-creation community.
Nemo,
As
real quick,
such, I got this
what kinds of projects were they? Like what kinds of?
mostly automotive, but when they partnered with other OEMs, they tend to be more like experientially based. Like when they worked with BMW or Shell or Domino's, rather than being strictly physical product focused, it was around like with Shell, it was more about like how do you deal with the climate activism aspect of mobility, right? And with BMW, it was about how can we enhance safety and experience in cars, and with Domino's is about the ultimate delivery vehicle and what does that mean, right? So while it was all centered around automotive, it wasn't specific about the car itself. It was around what aspect of the ecosystem around the car can co-creation improve. It became a vital aspect of how Local Motors would innovate, would work with other companies to innovate on their behalf. And when I joined in 2014, one thing they were doing was white labeling the function of co-creation, but they weren't sure how to codify it. And that's actually where I met Chris. And so that's a good segue into letting Chris take over.
Yeah. So my background is so the creative process, and so by the time I got to Local Motors, I'd already been teaching. I wrote my thesis on the creative process, and I was really interested in putting a lot of that stuff to work. And so co-creation was really interesting because it was the creative process by other means, and I hadn't seen it used that way before. And so a lot of what I did was ask Nemo how to do stuff and then apply my own theoretical background to what we were doing to try to encourage the community, get conversations going, and just make sure that smart people and people who had cool points of view were being heard in the process. And then of course just setting it up as the co-creation brand manager, which is why I talked to Nemo so much. I think I drove to Chandler, where his office was, probably daily for a while there, to just pick Nemo's brain and get him tell me make decisions, because we were on deadlines and we need to get stuff done. It was awesome partnership.
Nice. And so, guys,
Oliver,
tell me, what is co-creation?
Oh,
Because I'm a little confused about what co-creation is. Could we explain to people who don't know what that is? What is it exactly?
You want to take this one first, Chris?
well, I thought you could take it first, and then I would
All right.
summarize and critique. No, I'm just kidding.
No, you know what? That's actually a fair way of approaching it, I think.
Let's go.
I could be very long-winded on this one, so I'll try to keep it nice and short. Basically, co-creation is any time that you have various different viewpoints that are allowed to have participation in a development of a creative project or a product development kind of strategy. So you would start with, in our case, we use the online community, so crowdsourcing, which is a function of co-creation, but it was kind of the function that Local Motors leveraged to do co-creation. And we were using tons of different types of people online to do it. So we had engineers, we had designers, we had makers, we had people that are more or less just, hackers. just any walk of life that felt like they had something to offer, we welcomed all comers. And as such, we were able to get such diverse thoughts and opinions and expertise that we were able to see the bigger picture of some of the creative initiatives that we put out there to the zeitgeist. And I think that's where the power of co-creation, from my experience, comes from, is those diverse voices all have the ability to participate in the process, which typically, especially in automotive, which is where we started doing this, is a black box product development process, right? Nobody gets to see how the sausage is made. Local Motors is like, no, we're not only going to show you how the sausage is made, you're going to help make the sausage with us. And that was our version of co-creation. As such, I would say that my attitudes have matured to where there are various different levels of co-creation, to which we'll probably unpack in this interview. But you have kind of subcategories where it's still the online community, right? And you still see that pretty alive today in various platforms like Discord. And then you also have professional co-creation, where businesses that have no business working together, or that you would never think to pair together, are able to come together and create some really cool, diverse ideas and products and innovations. And there's more to it, and like I said, we'll unpack that later.
Yeah, I think one of the things when you first hear about co-creation is like, oh, you just throw some idea out to the community and ask for suggestions, right? And then you have a ton of noise come in because everybody's like, every joker with their, ideas out there just throwing them at you. What's fundamental, I think, to co-creation is structure and brief. And so what we did was we created a closed solution space, which goes to my research, right? Immediately when I got to Local Motors, I'm like, yes, this makes sense, because you're creating a solution space, and now you're saying, here are the requirements, and it's real world. And that's why we were able to create products that got out there to the world, and we're able to crowdsource. Is because it wasn't disorganized. There was structure to it. There was a problem statement, and then there was a community that was able to team up with small teams, so there aren't too many cooks in the kitchen, with everybody contributing to one idea, right? And so it actually worked because you had these groups of people. You had a really tight solution space by virtue of the brief. For instance, a challenge. So like a challenge organizes thinking around a brief. So the Airbus challenge, Nemo, you remember that? So
yes, I do. So
we worked with Airbus, and Airbus wanted a drone, right? I'm not going to go into the details, but they wanted a drone. And so, but they had specs that it had to meet, and those specs made sense. And that's the other thing too, is you have to know how to brief it so that it's not just a whole list of things that you want to have that are too much for anybody to keep inside their head, right? Too like, why do we have this spec, right? So it all makes sense. So there's an art to it and a science to it, a human aspect to it. And then we said, okay, there's going to be I think the way we structured that one was a first, second, third, chosen by subject matter experts and leaders. And then there was a first, second, third that were, that the crowd actually, like the teams voted on the best ideas, best designs. And so that's, all of a sudden the community feels very involved and invested and clear on what they're actually doing. And so,
absolutely,
I think those are key factors.